It was a rainy Tuesday afternoon when Melissa Carter walked into the local supermarket with her 5-year-old son, Jordan. Her hair was damp, her coat was second-hand, and the look in her eyes spoke of quiet exhaustion. Life hadn't been kind lately. She clutched a faded shopping list in one hand and Jordan's small palm in the other. Every dollar counted. As she entered the store, Melissa could already feel the stares. A group of well-dressed women near the floral section glanced at her and whispered behind their hands. She ignored them. She had come for bread, milk, and a few essentials. Nothing more. She headed straight for the bargain aisle, trying not to let the judgment get under her skin. Jordan tugged on her coat. "Mommy, can we get the cereal with the tiger?" She knelt beside him, smiling gently. "Not today, sweetheart. Maybe next week." Her voice didn't waver, but her eyes did. She wished she could give him the world. But today, she could barely afford the basics. At the checkout, the cashier barely looked up. Melissa placed a few items on the belt: a small loaf of bread, a gallon of milk, 2 apples, and a box of tea. She handed over a few crumpled coupons and pulled out a prepaid card. The cashier sighed. "These better not be expired like last time," she muttered. Behind her, an older woman in designer clothes rolled her eyes. "People like her always hold up the line," she whispered loudly to her friend. "Can't even afford cereal, but walks around like she belongs here." Melissa's cheeks flushed with embarrassment. She squeezed Jordan's hand. He looked up, confused. "Mom, did we do something wrong?" Melissa didn't reply. She kept her chin up, swiped her card, and prayed it would go through. It did. Barely. She gathered her groceries in silence and walked out. But Jordan turned to look back at the cashier, then at the women laughing. Something changed in his young eyes. He didn't understand everything, but he understood this. His mother had been hurt. That night, Melissa sat on the couch, counting coins from a small jar. Bills were due, and her part-time nursing shifts were barely covering rent. Jordan watched her from the doorway. "Mommy, will we be rich someday?" She smiled gently, hiding the crack in her heart. "Maybe not rich in money, baby, but rich in love." Jordan nodded, but something inside him stirred, a seed quietly planting itself. 15 years passed. The world changed. Melissa aged, gracefully, but tired. Jordan, now 20, worked tirelessly, from part-time jobs to night classes in business. He never forgot that day at the grocery store. It became a silent engine in his soul, pushing him through sleepless nights and self-doubt. "One day," he whispered to himself, "I'll change how people like my mother are treated." Jordan eventually earned a scholarship to a top university. While others celebrated, he spent his evenings volunteering at soup kitchens and studying under dim lights. He learned fast, not just about business, but about people. He didn't want to be rich for himself. He wanted to create a world where no mother had to lower her eyes at a checkout line. At 28, Jordan had launched a chain of ethical grocery stores called Humble Roots, stores that trained staff to treat all customers with dignity, provided silent discount programs for low-income shoppers, and partnered with local farmers. Investors were skeptical at first. "It's not profitable," they said. But Jordan had something stronger than profit. He had purpose. One foggy morning, Jordan, now wearing a crisp navy suit, walked into the very same supermarket where his mother had been humiliated years ago. It was run down, barely holding on. The owner, burdened with debts, had listed it quietly for sale. Jordan didn't negotiate. He paid full price. Not because he had to, but because he wanted to. The next day, he returned. Not alone. He brought Melissa. She stepped out of the car, confused. "Jordan, why are we here?" He smiled, held her hand, and said, "Come see what your strength built." They entered together. The same old cashier, now grayer, looked up, startled. So did the manager. "Can we help you?" the manager asked. Jordan nodded. "Yes, I'm Jordan Carter, and as of this morning, I own this store." Melissa gasped. The employees froze. The air shifted. Jordan stepped forward, his voice calm but powerful. "Years ago, my mother stood in this exact spot, treated like dirt because she didn't wear designer shoes. That moment changed me. So I bought this store, not for revenge, but for respect." He turned to the staff. "This place is under new rules. Kindness is mandatory." Melissa's eyes welled with tears. She looked around. The aisles, the shelves, the cashier lanes, every inch of the place where she once felt invisible. Now, her son stood as its owner, rewriting not just her memory, but the legacy of the space itself. Jordan handed her a badge. Co-founder, Humble Roots. She clutched it to her chest, speechless. Some employees clapped awkwardly. Others looked embarrassed. The older cashier, who had once shamed Melissa, said quietly, I remember you." Melissa didn't say a word. She didn't need to. Her silence had more grace than any apology. Jordan, however, gave a polite nod and said, "Everyone gets a second chance here, if they're willing to treat others with humanity." Word spread quickly. Local newspapers picked up the story. A former homeless boy turned ethical grocery chain founder, returning to the store where he once watched his mother be humiliated? It was a headline made for hearts. But Jordan refused to bask in the spotlight. "This isn't about me," he said. "It's about every person who's ever felt lesser in places meant for all." He initiated reforms immediately. Employees received empathy training. A dignity fund was created, where struggling mothers, veterans, and seniors could receive help at checkout without shame. Every cart got a small sticker, "You matter here," and above the entrance, a new sign, "Melissa's Market, a Humble Roots store." On opening day, under new management, Melissa cut the ribbon. She wore a blue blouse Jordan had bought for her, nothing fancy, just soft and beautiful. The same women who had once gossiped at the floral section stood in the back, stunned. One of them approached Melissa and whispered, "I'm sorry. Truly, I was small that day." Melissa smiled and said, "So was I, but we both grew." Jordan took the mic. "If there's one thing I've learned," he said, "it's this. Never underestimate a woman with a tired coat and a brave heart, especially if she's raising a son who's watching." The crowd applauded. Cameras clicked. Melissa cried. Jordan hugged her in front of everyone, not out of pride, but out of deep, overwhelming love. Outside, as people filled their carts and thanked the staff, Jordan watched silently from the parking lot. Melissa joined him. "You did it," she said. He shook his head. "You did it. I just followed your footsteps." She smiled. "Maybe, but you walked farther than I ever dreamed." Jordan looked up at the sign, "Melissa's Market," and whispered, "This is just the beginning."